Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Friday, October the 4th, 2024, and it is fight day. Mikhailovich, Janibek, Canelo, whatever. Janibek versus Mikhailovich. So we have a fight at this stage. Now, at the time of recording this, they haven't had the second weigh-in, but based on what I think we saw at the weigh-in yesterday with Janibek, I think he's come prepared, and I think he'll make the weight again comfortably today. It's not that hard. I mean, I think a lot of people have gone on about the complexities of the same day weigh-in and how hard it is. Well, take it from me, it's not that bad. And I'm only going from an amateur point of view. At all the international tournaments that I went to, it was always the same day weigh-in. You would weigh in that morning and fight that night. And I know professional boxing is a lot different to amateur boxing and all the rest of it, but when you're with an amateur tournament, you've got to weigh in maybe 3 or 4 days in a row, try and make weight, put on 4 or 5 kilos and then bring it off. So I don't think, even if he's had to hold the weight for the 24 hours, or was it 22 hours, I think really, although I think the official weigh-in was at 10 o'clock this morning, then the ceremonial weigh-in was at 12, so it's going to be 24 hours. I think he'll be okay. I mean, the pound is what, 10 pounds, it's about 4.5 kilos, so I'm sure he'll be fine. It'll just be maybe at the start, obviously replenishing the fluids, then it would maybe, I would think he would have had just a good solid feed, and then after that it just would have been monitoring the fluid intake from there, because it's really the fluid that puts on most of the weight. And at that stage it doesn't really matter what you eat, you're not really going to put on weight. So for instance, you're probably better off eating a Mars bar than an apple, if that makes sense, because of the weight. So anyway, lots of those things come into it. I think he'll get it right. He's obviously on 24 hours notice come in, he's made the weight first off, and I think he'll be right today. So I think you'll see a professional Janibek, and that, or does that spell trouble for Mikhailovich? Now, one thing I'll say, look, I don't expect the fight to end well for Andre. However, what I will say is don't underestimate the will and toughness of this guy. Now, in my opinion, and it's only one of many, I think he's way out of his depth as far as the quality of opponent goes. But when does that matter in the past? If he turns up and let's just say Janibek isn't maybe as switched on as maybe he should be, and Mikhailovich is up for the fight of his life, which we've seen many times before, then of course an upset is possible. But as I said, I just think Mikhailovich, while he probably shouldn't be in the ring with Janibek in the first place based on actually earning a world title shot, the fact is that he is. And if you look at some of Mikhailovich's fights, he's limited in a few ways, but he's tough and he's hard, and he doesn't mind standing there with you and ripping and hooking and pushing and shoving and just really getting involved in a dogfight. And probably an example of that was the Saltorin, that was his name, Edison Saltorin, I think that was his name. He actually did get dropped. He was a southpaw and did actually drop Mikhailovich, which is probably not a great sign coming in against probably one of the best southpaws in the world at the moment, pound for pound, in Janibek. So that's obviously a concern, but I think it was more of a shock knockdown. But if you look at that fight, even though Saltorin is nowhere, of course, in the league of a Janibek, if you just look at that, it's just probably more of what Mikhailovich did. He has got a pretty good chin despite what happened in that fight. He got up and I don't think he was rocked at all. It was just one of those shock things, but he's not afraid just to bite down in the mouth guard and just come back at you. Now that might actually be to his detriment tonight against someone like Janibek, who is just an absolute machine. So I think while Janibek gets the job done quite comfortably, I'm actually probably predicting maybe a 4th round stoppage. Not necessarily maybe a knockout. I think maybe he gets saved by his corner or the referee, but I think you'll see a very entertaining fight. I think you'll see Janibek come out and probably give him absolutely no respect whatsoever, and that is what I think gives Mikhailovich a slight chance, very slight chance, to maybe cause the boil over, and I think we will see both guys going toe to toe, but I just think the volume of punches from Janibek, the class of Janibek, the experience of Janibek will be enough to overpower Andre, and as I said, either the corner or the referee I think will stop the fight. He might even drop Andre, but I've just got a feeling he's really going to go out on his shield. He, as I said, he's a tough guy, and he's a very unpredictable type of guy. Inside and outside the ring, we've seen that. He's a very complex, strange guy outside the ring, and I think that sort of crosses over into the ring where you just don't know what you're going to get. Well, actually, I think you do know what you're going to get, but he's still very, very unpredictable at the same time. And I've just got a feeling if Janibek is maybe careless early, who knows, Andre might land a shot and maybe get an early knockdown or whatever it might be. But overall, I think Janibek does get the job done, but I'm not expecting it to be quite as easy as what a lot of people think. Because what you've got to remember too also with Janibek is that he looks absolutely ferocious in the ring. He's scored many devastating knockouts, but the quality of opposition has been very, very ordinary. Now, I'm not saying Mikhailovich is probably any better than those guys, but what I'm saying is that if Andre maybe turns up maybe a little bit better prepared, or I don't know, maybe he's a little bit better than what we actually think he is, you just never know. But anyway, that's my prediction. I think Andre goes out there, he gives it everything he's possibly got. We have a 4-round war, but Mikhailovich in the end is saved by himself. So there you go, I'm predicting a 4th round stoppage for Janibek. The girls on the undercard, of course, should be a great fight as well. This is going to be a really good night of fights. Don't make any mistake about that. And I see they did add a couple of, was it a 6-rounder and a 4-rounder, or 2 4-rounds, whatever it is, a couple of the local undefeated prospects, and they've flown in a couple of Papua New Guineans to feed to them to get the crowd up and about. So I would think both of those fights will be very, very one-sided, but then we'll get into it. You've got to remember, the undercard goes, well, the whole, I think 7 o'clock, the main event's on at 8:30, so the whole undercard's only an hour and a half. And as I said, I think the girls or women's fight, ladies fight, will be a cracker, and then we're into the main fight. So we might be out of there, guys, by about 9 o'clock based on my predictions, but I think it's going to be a great night of boxing. At the end of the day, how good is it? It's Friday night, main event, or 2 main events on, only a couple of fights. It's free on Foxtel. What more can you ask for with the footy season being over? And New South Wales, of course, it's the NRL, that's what it's called, yeah, NRL Grand Final. So I'm sure that'll get you guys up and about, prepared for what's going to come on Sunday, and that is the mighty Melbourne Storm winning the NRL Premiership. So on to some other stuff. I did see the other big news for us here in Australia, of course. Looks like Liam Paro and Hitchens will be fighting on December 7th, but strangely in Puerto Rico. Now, neither one of these guys are obviously Puerto Rican. Liam's our man from Australia, Hitchens. I don't know whether to call him, it's Richardson Hitchens, but sometimes it's Richard Hitchens, but it's Richardson Hitchens is his correct name. So anyway, but he's obviously an American, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm assuming there's been some money exchanged hands from the government over there. Maybe they want more big time boxing there. Sabril Matias is going to be on the undercard, which obviously brings a lot of eyeballs to the event over there and probably packs out the stadium as well. And of course there'll be the build up if Matias wins, which I'm sure they'll feed him someone that's pretty average to get him back on the winners list, and then he'll probably obviously no doubt be in line for the winner of Paro and Hitchens. So that's where that one stands. And look, a great opportunity for Liam. Look, you got to give this guy so much credit. I'm a little bit disappointed for him that he's not getting the homecoming here in Australia, and I don't know what has transpired that hasn't been able to happen. So I'm disappointed in him in that way, because it does give Hitchens just a slightly better chance of winning. But I'm sure that Liam will get his shot in 2025 at home. But look, full credit to Liam. He's taking on a very, very good opponent who was very lucky in his last fight. If you can remember, was it Gustavo Lemos? I thought very lucky to win that fight. But make no mistake, world title fights, anything can happen. I think he'll give Liam a very, very good fight, but I think Liam Paro can get the job done and possibly move on to a fight with George Kambosos Jr. next year. Now, speaking of George, nothing's really been said about what he's up to. There's been leaks and rumours and little tidbits put out that he's going to 140. I think that's obviously what's going to happen, but there's been big announcements coming for, I'm thinking, 2, 3, 4 weeks, and we haven't received any news yet. I've got a feeling now that Liam signed to fight Hitchens that maybe they will get George I'm just trying to not a massive fight, but a solid fight, and hopefully get him that win at 140, and then all of a sudden, regardless of what people think of him, he's still a name in world boxing. He's the undisputed, or former undisputed lightweight champion. He had that win over Lopez. So at that weight, there's Lopez himself. There's obviously Liam Paro. Let's see what Devin Haney does. I'm not sure they'll fight again, by the way, of course. But there is Valenzuela. So there's some good fights out there for George. So yeah, I think he's still got some big fights in George, because again, he's still a name in world boxing. I know he hasn't had the best record since the Lopez fight, but he still is the former undisputed lightweight champion, and that will get him a lot of those young up-and-comers or fringe contenders or former champions, whatever it might be, all wanting a piece of George Kambosos. So, and full credit again to George, who says, let's go, bring it on. So we'll see what happens there. The other unusual news I saw was that, what was it, Terence Crawford, that's right, it just slipped my mind there, has been offered and declined a 2-fight series, or whatever you might want to call it, against Conor McGregor. Now, I thought Conor McGregor was absolutely done and dusted and finished. Now, apparently the offer was that it would be a boxing fight and an MMA fight, so one each. And I don't know what they would do. You would think it would, well, who knows what would happen in both fights. I think Terence Crawford could beat him in MMA, to be honest, if he had a half-decent training camp learning some of the stuff in MMA. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. I'm sure the MMA people out there will strongly disagree. But apparently there was a lot of money on the table, and I really like the fact that allegedly, or apparently, that Crawford and Conor McGregor actually spoke about this, and I think it was, and let's face it, Conor McGregor would want this. Massive amounts of money. He would obviously back himself into MMA, wouldn't care about if he lost in boxing, because it's like, oh, well, I'm not a boxer, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's a little bit different for Terence Crawford, who thinking of his legacy and all that sort of stuff, so I get that. But I like the fact they had a nice conversation, and Terence Crawford respectfully declined the offer and pretty much said to Conor McGregor, look, I don't really fancy going into your sport and having to deal with kicks and elbows and headbutts and everything else, so thanks, I really appreciate the offer, but I'm going to stick to boxing. And apparently, Conor McGregor actually respected that himself, thanked Terence Crawford, did remind him how much money they were leaving on the table, but said, that's fine, we will move on. So sometimes you're going to have civil conversations in the sport, business-like conversations in the sport, without all the insults and all the social media crap that they go on these days. So I thought that was well done. And to be honest with you, I don't like the idea of the whole thing. I understand it's a whole new ball game than previous years, and there's lots of money to be made in all sorts of different aspects of combat sports these days. And I know these guys, they put in a lot, they sacrifice a lot, they risk a lot, so they deserve to get paid. But yeah, I'm not a big one for these crossover fights, especially boxers going to MMA. It's just not my thing, but that's just me. And one more thing before I go, rumours that Canelo Alvarez will be maybe fighting Chris Eubank Jr. next year. Now, I think we've said on here on numerous different, whether it be walking boxing or talking boxing or whatever else it might be, that Canelo Alvarez is fast running out of opponents. But I've got a feeling that I know who the 2025 opponents are going to be for Canelo. It's going to be Chris Eubank. You can see that happening, but also I think the other one will be Christian Mbili, who's just been elevated to the WBA #1. So they're my picks for Canelo's fights in 2025, Mbili and Eubank Jr. And then I think it is official, he has run out of opponents. If he's not going to fight Crawford, if he's not going to fight Benavidez, who else is there going to be? Unless someone like Janibek moves up, or Bivol agrees to a rematch that he's got to get past, obviously, better be first. But I just don't know who he's going to fight. And if that is the case, if he doesn't want to fight those guys in Benavidez, Crawford, Morale, Bivol, whoever it might be, or doesn't get an opportunity at Bivol, is it better for him just to retire? Would it be better for his legacy just to retire and say, well, that's it, I'm out, rather than continuing to fight these fringe contenders and people that, or guys that really have no chance of beating him? So, and further alienating the fans, more importantly. So anyway, he's his own man, he can do what he wants. But yeah, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me that he's not going to fight those guys, but he's going to hang around for another 2 or 3 years. But anyway, we will see. But how good would that be from the fight in England? I think it would be massive over there. I think that he would probably sell out Wembley or close to it. And I know there's also been rumours, of course, that it could be Japan. I think he'll wait till May now and fight probably Eubank Jr. then. But yeah, England. I know it's been on his bucket list for a while. So let's see if that happens in 2025. So anyway, guys, that is it. Hope you have a great night watching the fights. I certainly will be. It's going to be an early night, so plenty of time to go out and do what you want afterwards, or kick back and have an extra couple of beers, who knows. But looking forward to a massive night of boxing. All right, guys, well, that again is it. Have a good one, and we will speak to you tomorrow.